Chelsea 0, Liverpool 0. Again, Shaka Hislop for the fourth time in a row over 90 minutes. No goals. But what did we see today? Both the good, the bad, and the indifferent at Stamford Bridge.
Well, what we didn't see was a whole lot of good football, in all honesty. This game was everything that's said on the tin. I think we kind of suspected, given the form of these two, given what we've seen leading up to this game, that you never felt it was going to be a classic, and it certainly lived up to that billing of not being a classic. I have a slight confession here, Mark. I didn't see any of the pre-game show. I didn't see the lineup before the start of the game. I switched on as the game kicked off, and it took me fully an hour of just kind of looking at my phone, going, "Who's starting? Salah's on the bench? Wait, what?" And that was probably the most dramatic thing that happened during 90 minutes. Me just kind of confusing myself over the starting lineup, and none. That was probably the most exciting thing of the day, and I'll be honest with you.
Look, it would be easy to stick the boot into Chelsea here and chances up to a point, then no one to finish them because they don't have a striker. But it is what they are, and we'll be crossing over to Stamford Bridge shortly to get some details about what our guys on the ground from ESPN FC saw. But as we bring in James Olley, James, you're at Stamford Bridge. What I want to get from you, if you wouldn't mind, from a goalless draw, you've been there before plenty times. How did the atmosphere differ from what you've had before with Graham Potter to Bruno taking charge today?
Well, the full-time whistle on Saturday here, when they lost 2-0 to Villa, was greeted by boos and widespread discontentment. Tonight, it was just indifference. And I think this is a club, quite obviously, that's in stasis to some extent. Now they're waiting to appoint a new manager. It's pretty clear, and this is no disrespect to Bruno Salter, that he is just merely a placeholder, a sort of equivalent of a seat filler at the Oscars, just to make sure there's no gap in the dugout. But he's never going to win an award. He's never going to be supposed to be in the room. And I thought, even in his substitutions today, he brought Conor Gallagher on in the 69th minute from N'Golo Kante. That could only have been pre-planned because Kante first start for 7 months. He's clearly not going to be able to play 90 minutes. He then waited until the final 12 minutes to bring on Mudryk, and then 5 minutes from the end, he brought on Raheem Sterling. And this whole 90 minutes just smacked of two teams who just thought, let's take a point here and move on. And really, from his point of view, from Celtic's point of view, he just thought, I don't want to make this any worse. And a draw against Liverpool in the circumstances is probably a respectful result. And I can only assume from Jurgen Klopp's point of view, given the lineup that he selected, how bad they were against Manchester City, the fact that they've still got a little bit more scope in the rest of this season in terms of trying to get back in the top 4 than Chelsea. I think they just looked at it and thought, let's get a draw here and really go and attack Arsenal on the weekend in front of our own crowd.
Yeah, there's a malaise, Shaka, isn't there, about Chelsea right now? And they've got a decision to make. James just speaking about Bruno being a placeholder, being a seat filler at the Oscars. And he's quite right. The problem that Chelsea have right now, if they go for someone now, they might not get them in the summer, so that's why they'd go for them now. But they're not going to be able to offer Champions League football. What they're going to have to do is pay top dollar to get someone that might not be too keen to come unless he's getting paid top dollar.
Yeah, and Chelsea are willing to pay top dollar. That's the only thing kind of in their favour. Just to build on what James Olley said, and if I may, how good was it to see N'Golo Kante back on the football field? What a footballer he is. And while I think Chelsea's issues are more their lack of an out-and-out striker. N'Golo Kante just again, you can't help but wonder how much different, if not better, given their lack of striker, Chelsea would be if he had been fit all season, and how different the World Cup in Qatar may have been if he were fit for France. Albeit, I know he went down to penalty kicks for France. But that being said, trying to find something positive about this game. I continue to struggle in terms of what is to come for Chelsea and in terms of their recruitment of a manager. Again, a lot a lot hinges on what may happen elsewhere. There's quite a list of available managers, whether you're talking Nagelsmann or Pochettino. We may be adding to that list, given not quite sure where Real Madrid and Carlo Ancelotti stand. And that may prove to be the spark of a merry-go-round. Everybody may just, well, all the big-name managers, all those who have at least some Champions League experience, maybe just kind of waiting to see what they do. I don't think Nagelsmann is going to do anything right now, given how soon it is since he parted ways with Bayern Munich. I expect him to wait till the summer. Maybe the likes of Pochettino may be interested, but then he has a decision to make in terms of returning to Spurs. Do Chelsea come calling? Is that attractive to him? He's also linked with the Real Madrid job. So right now, everybody may just be kind of waiting to see what happens and make an informed decision come this summer, given where Chelsea are, given where so many others may be.
I want to try and accentuate the positives, James, from the game. There were chances, a couple of goals disallowed rightly by VAR, but I want to touch on something Shaka mentioned about N'Golo Kante coming back, playing alongside Kovacic, playing alongside Enzo, Reece James in his best position at right wing back, Ben Chilwell at left wing back. There seemed to be a better balance about Chelsea in this one.
Yeah, I think that Graham Potter will come to lament Kante not being fit in the same way that Thomas Tuchel did. Near the end of Tuchel's reign, he often talked about not having what he believed was the best midfielder in the world available more often due to injury. And, clearly Potter's hardly been able to use him at all. So, that the difference he made tonight, I thought, he was excellent, particularly in the first half. Inevitably, he tied to some extent after half time. But I thought it was a nice moment, actually, early in the second half. It was sort of a bit of a metaphor for what Kante's being asked to do here, which is, Chelsea were attacking and Havertz actually fluffed the pass, but Kante came out of nowhere to actually help the pass on to Kovacic when Kovacic then spooned the ball over the bar. And you just sort of thought, yeah, this is what he's got to do. He's got to be everywhere to help everything all the time. And it's a sort of Herculean ask for him, really, from this point onwards now. Because they've got a Champions League quarter-final against Real Madrid to come next week. And, I could see them maybe giving Kante a little bit of a run out at Wolves, but there's no point in playing 90 minutes there when you need him absolutely fresh for what will be, as I say, an almighty task in the Bernabeu next Wednesday.
I know you've got the press conferences to attend shortly. We'll be joined by Mark Ogden, but here's a little stat for you, Olley. How about this one? N'Golo Kante's last 3 home games at Stamford Bridge, he's had 3 different managers for Chelsea. That's quite, I don't know if it's impressive or what it is, but it's some stat.
Well, it says 2 things, doesn't it? One, it says talks to the sheer level of turmoil that there's been at this club over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years. But it also raises question marks about how much longer N'Golo Kante can do it at the highest level. He's into his 30s now. He's had perennial injury problems. I mean, this was a really, really encouraging comeback from him, because there would have been question marks about that. Of course, there's also his contract situation bubbling on in the background, and you sort of, there'll be senior figures here at Chelsea who will have taken note of that and thought, actually, maybe he can do a job for us going forward. Maybe he's not a player that we either have to move on or or plan without for next season in a considerable way. So, they've both got questions to answer, but the Kante can't solve it on his own. He's done it so many times in the past, but Chelsea really can't allow their season to drift like they allowed that 90 minutes to drift. They have to get some clarity around the managerial position, because I hate to come back to it, but I just think Bruno Salta going up against Carlo Ancelotti in the Bernabeu, the defending European champions, you worry for them a little bit there.
I do remember Chelsea going to Spain and getting a good result in years gone by in the Champions League when no one expected them to do so. But I commentated on Real Madrid at the weekend. They scored 6, albeit the opposition via the lead defended horribly. But where's Chelsea's goals coming from finally, James, before you head to the press conference and we bring in Mark Ogden? If they've got to play Real Madrid, they can't play for 2-0-0s because that's unlikely to happen against Benzema and co. So who scores their goals in the Champions League for Chelsea?
Well, they've just got to hope, really, that Kai Havertz. I thought Havertz looked just so utterly bereft of confidence tonight. He got into some good positions, and even the goal that he had chalked off of VAR. That's a bad miss, really. He's through on goal. Okay, Alisson makes a decent save, but it should never really get as far as the rebound off the hand and going in. Difficult to say. They've had to have got people chipping in from all over the place to try. I mean, what is it? 29 goals they've scored in the Premier League this season. It's the lowest of. Well, they're not even in the top half. I mean, every team in the top half has scored more goals than them. So, where are they going to come from? That's probably the biggest conundrum that Bruno South has got to try and solve in the next few days, because, as you say, they've struggled for a while, and just how short of confidence they all looked. How Felix still continues to look their best attacking player, and he's the one that they don't own.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.